The rain poured relentlessly over Seoul's bustling streets as Emma Chen rushed through the crowded sidewalk, her worn sneakers splashing through puddles. She clutched her portfolio against her chest, protecting the sketches that represented 3 years of art school and countless sleepless nights. At 23, Emma was just another international student trying to make her mark in South Korea's competitive art scene. Her destination was the prestigious Hanok Gallery, where she had miraculously secured an interview for an assistant position. The gallery was known for showcasing contemporary art within traditional Korean architecture, attracting both local elite and international collectors. Emma had rehearsed her Korean phrases 100 times, determined not to let language barriers stand in her way. As she turned the corner, the magnificent Hanok building came into view. Its curved tile roof and elegant wooden beams stood in stark contrast to the modern skyscrapers surrounding it. Emma paused to catch her breath, smoothing down her simple black dress. The nicest thing she owned. She couldn't afford designer clothes like the other applicants she'd surely compete against, but her work would have to speak for itself. Inside the gallery, the atmosphere was hushed and reverent. Emma's shoes squeaked embarrassingly on the polished floor as she approached the reception desk. The receptionist, immaculately dressed in designer clothing, looked her up and down with barely concealed disdain before directing her to a waiting area. Emma sat among 5 other candidates, all of whom looked like they'd stepped out of fashion magazines. Their portfolios were bound in expensive leather, while hers was a simple plastic folder from the campus bookstore. Doubt crept in, but she pushed it away. She hadn't come this far to give up now. "Emma Chen?" a voice called out in accented English. She looked up to see a well-dressed man in his 30s standing in the doorway. This must be Mr. Park, the gallery director she'd spoken to on the phone. She stood quickly, bowing as she'd practiced. "Yes, that's me. Thank you for this opportunity," she said in carefully pronounced Korean. Mr. Park's expression softened slightly at her effort. He led her through a maze of exhibition rooms, each more breathtaking than the last. Contemporary installations sat harmoniously within the traditional architecture, creating a dialogue between past and present. They entered a small office where another man sat with his back to them, studying something on his desk. He wore a simple gray sweater and jeans, surprisingly casual for such an upscale establishment. "This is our new curator," Mr. Park said. "He'll be conducting the interview with me." The man turned around, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. He was younger than she'd expected, perhaps in his late 20s, with gentle eyes and an easy smile that immediately put her at ease. There was something familiar about him, though she couldn't place where she might have seen him before. "Please, have a seat," he said in perfect English. "I'm Lee Jin-woo. I understand you're from California?" Emma nodded, surprised by his informal approach. "Yes, from a small town near San Francisco. I came to Seoul for art school 3 years ago." "What drew you to Korea?" Jin-woo asked, genuinely curious. Emma relaxed slightly. This wasn't the rigid formal interview she'd expected. "Initially, it was the art program at my university. But the longer I stayed, the more I fell in love with how Korea blends traditional and contemporary culture. It's visible everywhere, in architecture, fashion, even in how people interact. As an artist, I find that fascinating." Jin-woo leaned forward, interested. "Show me your work." Emma opened her portfolio with trembling hands. The first piece was a watercolor series depicting Seoul's hidden alleyways, where old shops existed alongside trendy cafes. The second was an oil painting series exploring the theme of identity as a foreigner in Korea. "These are remarkable," Jin-woo said quietly, studying each piece carefully. "You see Seoul differently than most artists. There's honesty here, vulnerability." Mr. Park examined the works more critically. "The technique is good, but we need someone who understands our clientele. Our collectors expect a certain sophistication." Emma's heart sank. She knew what he meant. Her work was too raw, too emotional for wealthy collectors who preferred safe, decorative pieces. I disagree, Jinwoo said firmly. Art should challenge us, make us see familiar things in new ways. These pieces do exactly that. The two men exchanged a look that suggested this wasn't their first disagreement. Mr. Park sighed and excused himself to take a phone call, leaving Emma alone with Jinwoo. Don't mind him, Jinwoo said with a conspiratorial smile. He's excellent at the business side, but sometimes he forgets that art is about more than matching someone's sofa. Emma laughed despite her nerves. I appreciate your support, but I understand his perspective. I know my work isn't very commercial. Commercial art has its place, Jinwoo agreed. But galleries also have a responsibility to showcase voices that might otherwise go unheard. Tell me, what would you do if you could curate your own exhibition? Emma's eyes lit up. This was something she'd dreamed about countless times. I'd create a show about the invisible people in Seoul, the delivery drivers, the elderly women selling vegetables at dawn, the foreign workers who keep the city running. They're essential to Seoul's rhythm, but they're often overlooked. Jinwoo listened intently as she described her vision, occasionally asking thoughtful questions. Time seemed to fly by, and Emma found herself forgetting this was an interview. It felt more like a conversation with a kindred spirit who truly understood art's power to create empathy and connection. When Mr. Park returned, he seemed surprised to find them deep in discussion. I apologize for the interruption. We should conclude the interview. Jinwoo looked reluctant to end their conversation. We'll be in touch soon, Emma. Thank you for sharing your work with us. As Emma gathered her portfolio, she noticed Jinwoo writing something on a business card. He handed it to her with a warm smile. My contact information, in case you have any questions. Emma bowed formally to both men and left the gallery in a daze. The rain had stopped, and weak sunlight was breaking through the clouds. She looked at the business card in her hand. It was simple, elegant, with just his name and a phone number. No title, which seemed odd. Walking back to her tiny studio apartment in Hongdae, Emma replayed the interview in her mind. She'd probably blown her chances by being too honest about her artistic vision, but something about Jinwoo's encouragement gave her hope. He seemed different from the other art world elites she'd encountered, more genuine, less concerned with appearances. Her phone buzzed with a message from her roommate asking how it went. Emma typed back, "Not sure. Met someone interesting, though." She had no idea how prophetic those words would prove to be. 3 days passed with no word from the gallery. Emma threw herself into her part-time job at a small cafe near her university, trying not to obsess over the interview. She was steaming milk for a customer's latte when her phone vibrated. Her hands shook as she read the message. Congratulations. We'd like to offer you the assistant position. Can you start Monday? Park director. Emma barely contained her squeal of joy. The elderly customer smiled knowingly and told her in Korean, "Good news makes the coffee taste better." Monday arrived faster than expected. Emma stood before her meager wardrobe, agonizing over what to wear. She settled on a navy dress she'd found at a second-hand shop, pairing it with the only blazer she owned. It wasn't designer, but it was clean and professional. The gallery felt different as an employee. Emma arrived early, eager to prove herself worthy of the opportunity. She was organizing the storage room when Jinwoo appeared in the doorway, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Peace offering," he said with a grin. "Mr. Park can be demanding, especially on first days." Emma accepted the coffee gratefully. "I'm ready for whatever he throws at me." "That's the spirit," Jinwoo said. "By the way, I loved your idea about the Invisible People exhibition. I've been thinking about it all weekend." Their conversation was interrupted by Mr. Park's arrival. He immediately launched into a litany of tasks: inventory management, database updates, preparing for an upcoming opening. Emma's head spun, but she dutifully took notes. Over the following weeks, Emma settled into a routine. Her official duties were mundane: filing, scheduling, managing correspondence. But Jinwoo often pulled her into more creative projects. He valued her opinions on exhibitions, asked her to write catalog essays, and included her in meetings with artists. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Emma asked one evening as they worked late, preparing for a major opening. They were alone in the gallery, surrounded by half-hung paintings. Jinwoo paused in his work. "You remind me why I got into this field. Your passion is infectious. Plus, you see things others miss." Their working relationship gradually evolved into friendship. Jinwoo would bring her lunch when she forgot to eat, absorbed in her work. Emma would leave post-it notes with terrible art puns on his desk to make him laugh during stressful days. They debated endlessly about art, culture, and life over coffee breaks that stretched longer than they should. Emma noticed odd things about Jinwoo. Despite his casual demeanor, people treated him with unusual deference. Visitors would bow more deeply to him than to Mr. Park. Once she saw a news crew outside and asked Jinwoo about it, but he brushed it off as coverage for their new exhibition. "There's something you're not telling me," Emma said one afternoon as they reviewed submissions for an upcoming show. Jinwoo's smile faltered momentarily. "We all have parts of ourselves we keep private, don't we?" Before Emma could respond, Mr. Park burst in looking panicked. "Jinwoo, your family is here! They're in the main gallery!" Jinwoo's face went pale. "I'll handle it. Emma, please stay here." But curiosity got the better of her. Emma crept to the doorway and peered into the main gallery. A group of impeccably dressed people stood among the artworks, their presence commanding attention. An older woman who could only be Jinwoo's mother was speaking to him in rapid Korean, her tone disapproving. Emma caught fragments of the conversation, something about responsibilities, appearances, and choosing appropriate company. Jinwoo stood his ground, his usual easy manner replaced by rigid formality. When the group finally left, Jinwoo found Emma pretending to work at her desk. His face was troubled. "Family drama?" Emma asked gently. "You could say that," Jinwoo replied, attempting his usual smile but not quite managing it. "My family has expectations. They don't understand why I choose to work here instead of joining the family business." "What kind of business?" Emma asked. Jinwoo hesitated. "Various enterprises. Nothing as interesting as what we do here." That night, Emma's roommate burst into their apartment waving her phone. "Oh my God! Emma, do you know who you've been working with?" She showed Emma a news article about Korea's prominent families. There, among photos of business magnates and political figures, was Jinwoo. The caption read, "Lee Jinwoo, youngest son of the Lee family, continues to distance himself from family enterprises." Emma's mind reeled. The Lee family wasn't royalty in the literal sense, but in modern Korea's corporate aristocracy, they were as close as it came. Jinwoo's father was one of the country's most powerful business leaders, his family's influence extending into politics, media, and culture. The next day, Emma couldn't look Jinwoo in the eye. Everything made sense now. The deference, his family's disapproval, Mr. Park's nervous behavior around him. She felt foolish for not realizing sooner, and worse, she felt betrayed that he'd hidden something so significant. "You're being weird," Jinwoo said during their usual coffee break. "Did I do something wrong?" Emma set down her cup harder than intended. "When were you going to tell me that you're basically corporate royalty?" Jinwoo's face fell. "Ah, you found out. Was this all a game to you, the poor foreign student who didn't know any better?" "Emma, no." Jinwoo reached for her hand, then thought better of it. "This is exactly why I didn't tell you. I wanted someone to see me as just Jinwoo, not as my family's son." "But you're not just Jinwoo." Emma said, standing to leave. You're someone who could buy this entire building without thinking twice. We're from completely different worlds. She spent the rest of the day avoiding him, burying herself in busy work. But as closing time approached, she found Jin-woo waiting by her desk. "Walk with me," he said. It wasn't a question. They walked through the gallery's sculpture garden in silence. The autumn air was crisp, leaves crunching under their feet. Finally, Jin-woo spoke. "My whole life, people have seen my family name before they see me. Friends who only wanted access to power. Women who dated me for status. Teachers who graded me based on fear of my father rather than my actual work." He stopped beside a modern interpretation of a traditional moon gate. "When I met you, you treated me like a regular person. Do you know how rare that is? How precious?" Emma's anger began to soften. "But your family wants me to take over the business empire, marry someone from another powerful family, and live the life they've planned for me," Jin-woo finished. "But I want to build something meaningful. This gallery, working with artists like you, that's what makes me happy." "Artists like me?" Emma repeated. "Talented ones who see beauty in unexpected places, who aren't afraid to show truth, even when it's uncomfortable." He turned to face her fully. "Emma, I'm still the same person who gets excited about your terrible art puns and argues with you about contemporary versus classical techniques." The sincerity in his eyes made Emma's remaining walls crumble. "Your family will never accept someone like me. That's their problem, not ours," Jin-woo said firmly. Unless you can't accept me knowing who my family is?" Emma considered this. The Jin-woo standing before her was the same man who'd championed her work, who brought her coffee, who spent hours discussing art with the passion of a true believer. The family money and influence were facts about him, but they didn't define him. "I can accept it," she said slowly. "But I need complete honesty from now on. No more secrets." Relief flooded Jin-woo's features. "I promise. Complete honesty." They returned to the gallery to find Mr. Park waiting anxiously. "Jin-woo, your mother called. She's insisting you attend the charity gala this weekend. She specifically mentioned bringing an appropriate companion." Jin-woo glanced at Emma. "Tell her I'll attend, and I'll be bringing someone." After Mr. Park left, Emma stared at Jin-woo in shock. "You can't possibly mean—" "Come with me," Jin-woo said. "Not as my employee, but as my date. Let me show you my world, and maybe you'll understand why I prefer ours." Emma's practical mind screamed about all the reasons this was a terrible idea. She didn't have appropriate clothes, didn't know the social rules, and would stick out like a sore thumb among Korea's elite. But the hope in Jin-woo's eyes made her hesitate. "I don't have anything to wear to something like that," she said weakly. "That's the easiest problem to solve," Jin-woo said with a grin. "Say yes, Emma. Let me prove that what we have is stronger than what my family expects." Against her better judgment, Emma found herself nodding. She had no idea that this decision would lead to a moment that would change everything, a single kiss that would defy conventions and capture the attention of an entire nation. The Imperial Hotel's ballroom glittered like a constellation of diamonds. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light over Seoul's most powerful families. Their designer gowns and tailored suits, a uniform of privilege. Emma stood frozen at the entrance, her hand trembling in Jin-woo's steady grasp. She wore a midnight blue gown that Jin-woo had insisted on buying despite her protests. It was simple, but elegant, chosen because he said it reminded him of her paintings, deep and mysterious with hidden depths. Her dark hair was swept up, revealing the delicate silver earrings he'd given her as a gallery opening gift weeks ago. "You look beautiful," Jin-woo whispered, sensing her anxiety. He looked magnificent in his tuxedo, but Emma could see the tension in his shoulders. "I feel like everyone's staring," Emma whispered back. They are, Jinwoo admitted with a wry smile. But not for the reasons you think. They're wondering how I managed to find someone who makes me smile like this. Before Emma could respond, a wave of guests approached them. Jinwoo introduced her simply as Emma Chen, a brilliant artist, carefully avoiding any mention of her position at the gallery. Some guests were polite but distant, their smiles not reaching their eyes. Others barely acknowledged her presence, speaking to Jinwoo in rapid Korean, as if she weren't there. Emma understood enough Korean to catch the whispers. American girl, temporary phase, his mother must be furious. Jinwoo's jaw tightened with each comment, but he maintained his composure, keeping Emma close to his side. They found refuge at a table with some younger guests who seemed genuinely interested in Emma's work. For a brief moment, she could almost forget the underwater feeling of being out of her depth. Then, Jinwoo's mother arrived. Lee Seo-yeon was elegance personified, from her perfectly coiffed hair to her couture hanbok-inspired gown. Her eyes, so like her son's in shape, but cold where his were warm, assessed Emma with surgical precision. Mother, Jinwoo said formally in Korean, may I present Emma Chen? Emma bowed deeply, greeting the older woman in her best Korean. Mrs. Dao, Lee's eyebrows raised slightly, perhaps surprised by the show of respect or by Emma's language effort. Miss Chen, Mrs. Lee replied in flawless English. Jinwoo has mentioned you. I understand you're an employee at the gallery? The emphasis on employee was subtle but unmistakable. Emma lifted her chin. Yes, ma'am. I'm honored to work with your son. He has incredible vision for contemporary art. Art, Mrs. Lee repeated, as if the word tasted bitter. Such an unstable career choice? Tell me, what does your family do? My mother is a high school teacher. My father passed away when I was young, Emma answered honestly. Mrs. Lee's smile was sharp as glass. How modest! Jinwoo has always been drawn to charity cases. Mother! Jinwoo's voice cut like steel. Emma placed a calming hand on his arm. It's all right, she said quietly, then addressed Mrs. Lee. You're right that I come from modest means, but I've earned everything through hard work and talent. I may not have been born into privilege, but I have something your son values, the ability to see beauty and meaning beyond material worth. Mrs. Lee's eyes narrowed dangerously, but before she could respond, the charity auction began. Jinwoo guided Emma away, his hand protective on her lower back. I'm sorry, he murmured. She had no right. She's protecting her son, Emma interrupted. In her world, I am a threat. I understand that. The auction proceeded with astronomical bids for items Emma couldn't imagine anyone actually wanting. Jinwoo bid occasionally, more out of obligation than interest. Then the final item was announced, a private concert by a world-renowned pianist, with proceeds supporting arts education for underprivileged youth. This one matters, Jinwoo said quietly. It's the only cause here I actually believe in. The bidding was fierce. Jinwoo competed with another prominent family, the amounts climbing higher and higher. Emma watched in amazement as numbers that could pay her rent for years were casually thrown around. Then she noticed something. Jinwoo's competitor was smirking, driving the price up not because he wanted the item, but because he enjoyed watching Jinwoo spend his family's money on something his mother would disapprove of. He's playing you, Emma whispered. Jinwoo's eyes hardened. I know. But the cause, there are other ways to support it, Emma said. An idea formed in her mind. Trust me, drop out. Jinwoo looked at her searchingly, then raised his hand. I withdraw my bid. The other bidder's smirk faltered. He'd won, but the victory was hollow without Jinwoo to compete against. The auction concluded, and guests began mingling again. What was that about? Jinwoo asked. Emma smiled mysteriously. You'll see. Dance with me first? They moved onto the dance floor as the orchestra began playing. Jinwoo held her like she was precious, leading her through a waltz with practiced ease. Emma had learned basic ballroom dancing for a college requirement, but in Jinwoo's arms, she felt like she was floating. "People are definitely staring now," Emma murmured. "Let them," Jinwoo said. "Emma, these past months with you, I've never been happier. You make me feel like myself, not just my family's son." "Jinwoo," Emma began, but he continued, "I know we're from different worlds. I know my family will fight this. But I also know that what we have is real." His voice dropped. "I'm falling in love with you, Emma-chan." Emma's heart stopped. Around them, couples continued dancing, unaware that her entire world had just shifted on its axis. She looked into Jinwoo's eyes and saw truth there. Not the calculating gaze of someone playing with her feelings, but genuine emotion that matched her own. "I'm falling in love with you, too," she whispered. Despite every logical reason not to. Jinwoo's smile was radiant. He spun her out and back, pulling her closer than proper form dictated. "Logic is overrated," he said against her ear. The song ended, but they remained in each other's arms for a beat too long. When they finally separated, Emma was breathless and flushed. She excused herself to the powder room, needing a moment to compose herself. Inside the luxurious bathroom, she encountered 3 women touching up their makeup. Their conversation halted when they saw her. "You're the American girl with Jinwoo," one said in English. It wasn't a question. Emma nodded warily. "Enjoy it while it lasts," another woman said with false sympathy. "The Lee family has plans for him. Important mergers, political alliances. You're just a temporary distraction." The third woman laughed. "Though I admire your ambition, going from gallery assistant to Chibo girlfriend, that's quite the upgrade." Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I didn't pursue Jinwoo for his money or status." "Of course not," the first woman said mockingly. "It's true love, right? How romantic, how naive." Emma straightened her spine. "You know what? You're right. I am naive. I believe that people can choose their own paths, that love matters more than mergers, and that art has value beyond its price tag. If that makes me unsuitable for your world, I'm perfectly fine with that." She left the bathroom with her head high, but their words echoed in her mind. Was she being naive? Was she setting herself and Jinwoo up for heartbreak? Emma found Jinwoo on the ballroom's balcony, looking out over Seoul's glittering skyline. The city lights twinkled like earthbound stars, beautiful and distant. "There you are," he said, pulling her close. "I was about to send a search party." "Just needed some air," Emma said. She hesitated, then asked, "Jinwoo, what are we doing? Your world, my world, they don't mix." Jinwoo turned her to face him. "Then we'll make our own world. Emma, I've spent my entire life following other people's plans. Meeting you, working at the gallery. It's the first time I've chosen my own path." "But your family will have to accept my choices," Jinwoo said firmly, "or lose me entirely." The determination in his voice made Emma shiver. She'd never had someone willing to fight for her like this. "And if they choose to lose you?" "Then I'll be free," Jinwoo said simply. "Free to build a life with someone who sees me for who I really am." The orchestra inside began playing a particularly beautiful piece. Without warning, Jinwoo dropped to one knee. Emma's heart nearly stopped. "I'm not proposing," he said quickly, seeing her panic. "Not yet. But I am making you a promise." He pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a tiny paintbrush charm. "This was my grandmother's. She was an artist too, though my family doesn't like to talk about it. She gave this to me before she died. Told me to give it to someone who would understand its value." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Jinwoo, Wear this, and know that whatever happens, you've already changed my life. You've shown me that there's more to existence than duty and expectation. You've given me courage to be myself." He stood and fastened the bracelet around her wrist. The paintbrush charm caught the light, sparkling like a tiny star. "It's beautiful," Emma breathed. "Not as beautiful as you," Jin-woo said. Maybe it was the champagne, or the emotion of the moment, or simply the accumulation of all the feelings she'd been holding back. Emma rose on her tiptoes, wound her arms around Jin-woo's neck, and kissed him. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was declaration and defiance, passion and promise all rolled into one. Jin-woo responded immediately, pulling her against him as if she might disappear. The world fell away. No ballroom, no disapproving families, no whispers about inappropriate matches. There was only this moment, this connection, this choice they were making together. Neither of them noticed the photographer on the balcony below, capturing the moment that would appear on every gossip site and newspaper in Korea by morning. They didn't see Jin-woo's mother watching from the doorway, her face a mask of fury and calculation. They were lost in each other, in the possibility of a future written on their own terms. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Emma's carefully styled hair had come partly undone, and Jin-woo's bow tie was askew. "That was," Jin-woo began. "Probably a mistake," Emma finished. "Your mother is going to kill me." "Worth it," Jin-woo said, pulling her close again. "Completely worth it." They stayed on the balcony for a while longer, holding each other and watching the city lights. Finally, Emma remembered her earlier plan. "We should go back in," she said. "I have an idea about the auction." They returned to find the party winding down. Emma approached the winning bidder of the piano concert, putting on her most charming smile. "Congratulations on your win," she said. "Such a generous donation for arts education." The man preened, clearly enjoying the attention. "Well, one must support the arts." "Absolutely," Emma agreed. "In fact, I was wondering if you might be interested in an additional opportunity. The gallery is organizing an exhibition featuring emerging artists from underprivileged backgrounds. We're looking for sponsors." Within 10 minutes, she'd secured not only a major sponsorship, but also the donation of the piano concert to the gallery's education program. Jin-woo watched in amazement as Emma worked her magic, turning the man's ego into genuine support for young artists. "How did you do that?" Jin-woo asked as they collected their coats. "People like him want to be seen as patrons of the arts," Emma explained. "I just gave him a more meaningful way to do it. Plus, now the piano concert will benefit students who could never afford such an experience otherwise." Jin-woo stopped in the middle of the lobby, looking at her with such intensity that Emma blushed. "What?" she asked. "Marry me," he said. Emma laughed, thinking he was joking. "Jin-woo, be serious." "I am serious," he said, catching her hands. "Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. You're brilliant, Emma Chen. You see solutions where others see problems. You're brave enough to kiss me in front of Seoul's elite. You're everything my family thinks I shouldn't want, which makes you everything I do want." "You're crazy," Emma said, but she was smiling. "Probably," Jin-woo agreed. "Is that a yes to someday?" Emma thought about the women in the bathroom, about Mrs. Lee's cold eyes, about all the obstacles they'd face. Then she thought about Jin-woo's laugh, his passion for art, the way he looked at her like she was a masterpiece. "Ask me again in a year," she said, "if we survive that long." "Challenge accepted," Jin-woo said. They left the hotel hand in hand, unaware that their balcony kiss had already been uploaded to social media with the caption, "Lee Ayre's shocking romance with foreign nobody." By morning, Emma's phone was flooded with calls from numbers she didn't recognize. The gallery was surrounded by photographers. Her simple life had exploded overnight into something unrecognizable. But when Jin Woo arrived with coffee and a determined smile, ready to face the storm together, Emma knew she'd made the right choice. She was no longer ordinary Emma Chen, struggling art student. She was Emma Chen who'd won the heart of Seoul's most eligible bachelor with nothing but honesty, talent, and one unforgettable kiss. The road ahead would be difficult. Mrs. Lee would scheme, the press would scrutinize, and society would judge. But Emma had learned something valuable. Love wasn't about fitting into someone else's world. It was about building a new world together. And with Jin Woo by her side, she was ready to create something extraordinary.